Okay, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, the whole nine yards. Recently, I've been taking some time off, obviously, hence the lack of uploads, but I wanted to come back really quickly before my trip in early January. It won't be long. I'll be back to normal by like the 7th or 8th, maybe the 9th, because, well, the reason I'm doing it now and posting something in between, I have a late Christmas present to give. The present is for Team Ares, one of the many competing Fortnite Esports clans out there, because Team Ares appears to have gone down the road of sketchy social media behavior, greedy practices, and inauthentic growth. Normally, this wouldn't be something worth my time, but Team Ares is one of the many orgs that is built by and targeted at children. I've talked about some of the others before, such as Regal Reserve. There's a whole series on that one. I'll link it down below in the description. They used a mansion that they didn't actually own and a stolen Twitter account to promote their fake challenges, and eventually fell apart completely when people became aware. I also talked about Valier, which was, go figure, using a fake mansion on TikTok and photoshopped skins in order to trick children into using their Epic Games creator codes. Valier is now gone as well because when the community became aware of what they were and how they were operating, it ousted them rather quickly. And I even talked about a wider set of these organizations, a bunch of them, that were using a tactic called internal operations, where they trick underage kids into paying them hundreds of dollars a month just so that they can be part of the group. They string these kids along, pretend like they'll have some sort of actual opportunity, all the while profiting off of their lack of knowledge, and most likely profiting off their parents, who typically become the unaware funding mechanism. Suffice it to say, the Fortnite esports community is not a healthy space. Some groups make more of an attempt than others, but by and large, there is a race to the bottom as children try to make it big and cut every single corner they can in the process. Today I'm talking about Team Ares because from what I can tell, Team Ares, or at least a concentrated group of the highest level management within that structure, have been botting their social media followers and rolling that over into scam NFT promotions. All of this begins with an email. Someone familiar with the team and their members reached out to me, asking to remain anonymous, and claimed that an internal group of the management structure had been inflating their social media metrics to acquire NFT promotions. This email directed me to a few profiles, some Social Blade statistics, and a couple additional names, but at first I didn't really think much of it. The reality of social media these days is that follower counts are very often subjected to wild fluctuation based on an immeasurable number of factors. It can be difficult, nearly downright impossible, to actually determine when fraudulent growth has occurred, and Team Ares is not exactly a big fish in the sea. They are, in fact, a very small fish in a tiny pond, or so I thought. Over the years, I've seen countless claims that suggest a person, team, creator, or company is somehow inflating their metrics, and rarely is there any substance at all. Half the time I just ignore these type of accusations now because a disgruntled ex-member or a competing content creator can just throw that kind of claim around without a second thought. However, in this particular case, I was bored, and I decided, why not actually take a look? Starting with what the original email contained, I began to delve into the world of social media as well as Social Blade, and here's what I found. Team Ares is a Fortnite esports organization that has roughly 10,000 followers on Twitter. The management structure for this group is nebulous at best, owing to the incredibly high rate of turnover that groups like this experience on a general level, where the owners and CEOs trade the company back and forth like a company, in air quotes, back and forth like a Pokemon card. But scrolling through their significantly lower number of followed accounts, I started to find the leadership. First was Ares Wolf. Self-described as the owner and CEO of Ares, who builds companies worldwide, Wolf appeared to be a logical place to begin. On the surface, nothing really out of the ordinary, but when plugging his profile into Social Blade, things got a little bit sketchy. Wolf has seen relatively flat growth for the better part of a year, but towards the end of 2021, we can see massive spikes cropping up. In a more detailed view, we can discover that at the end of October and in mid-December, respectively, Wolf gained 3,500 and 2,300 followers. This was a precursor to what then became near constant follower decline, and even as just one individual example, that kind of growth pattern is extremely suspect. However, one underage CEO does not indicate a wider pattern, so we have to go quite a bit further. Next is Ares Geo. Geo is listed in his profile as the owner of Team Ares, so logically, I guess that makes him a co-owner with Wolf. When you examine his stats, however, ownership isn't the only thing that he shares. Much like Wolf, Geo experiences flat horizontal metrics for the better part of a year, except in mid-July and early November, where he gains over 1,000 and then 1,600 followers all at once. Again, similar to Wolf, not just in timing and follower spike numbers, but also the ensuing decline, Geo begins to lose followers after that most recent spike, even going as high as over 100 in a single day on the 15th of December. Remember that date. Next one, Ares Takeoff. Ares Takeoff is self-described as management for the team and claims that he has 200,000 supports in addition. I can only assume he meant supporters. good one, buddy. But when we plug Aries takeoff into Social Blade, well, what do we see? Flat lateral movement for most of the year, and then massive spikes in early November and early December. 1,600 and 1,700 followers. This is yet again nearly identical to the other leadership figures, both in metrics, timing, and subsequent result. After the spike, he turns negative, resulting in average decline for the following weeks. Not done. Next one is Skite. Skite is the community manager for Aries, and see for yourself. Between November 1st and November 8th, once again, Skite gains, guess it, 1,672 followers. This is identical to the others in multiple ways, which now hopefully begins to constitute a pattern rather than some sort of anomaly. Last one, though I'm fairly confident that there's a whole bunch more if you take the time to find them. The last one is Aries North. North is my favorite because North is where we find a direct link to NFTs. Self-describing as the founder of Aries and the head of content production, we can also see that he is an NFT promoter, as per his own profile. Plugging his profile into Social Blade, though, we also discovered that in the first half of November, right, obviously, centering on the 1st through the 8th, sound familiar, Aries North gained roughly 3,800 followers. After that, he began a rapid decline, again, identical to all the others. That's 5 people, 2 owners, 1 founder, the community manager, and another management figure who all display sequential or even identical spikes, sometimes even synchronized to almost exactly 1,600 or 1,700 profiles. And after all of it has occurred, they start to bleed followers. How could this be possible? To determine that, we need to scroll back in their tweet archives to the weeks in question, and for most, there is not a single thing out of the ordinary or even in common. The community manager, Skite, may have gained a decent number of followers in early November when he officially came on board, but that would not explain the relative size, since Aries itself is not a massive team. For the others, there's basically nothing. No giveaways, no big promotions, no partnerships, no competitions, nothing, except for Aries North. North is my favorite one because during the first half of November, more precisely from the 7th to the 10th, so 3 days in total, he promotes not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 separate NFT projects, and half of these projects are pushing the collection social media pages, not even his own. If we start to look at these projects, it's a shit show. For the pig punks, it's just 8-bit art, and the team is names with no first names with no faces, no work history, no nothing. It's a collection of useless images that could not possibly be any less valuable. And honestly, it's almost exactly like the altcoin crypto bubble where single-page website revolutions were popping up everywhere before the industry completely fell apart and almost everyone lost their money on most of those projects. The Spartan NFTs that he also promoted, once again, no team, just famous historical names and little avatars. Typos all over the place. My favorite is, few days after the marketplace integration, if there are unsold Spartanas, they will be considered as weak, so they will be burned. And the general vibe this project conveys is one of illegitimate hype caching, not something that can be considered even remotely worthwhile or worthy of being promoted to your underage audience. For the Yoke Frat, let me read what they have as their team page. No joke. The Golden Egg is CEO and owner. The Chief of Staff, because this is a political campaign or something, not the Chief Operating or Technical Officer, the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff is a scrambled egg. The head developer is just poached egg, and the art director is the salted egg. They don't even do investors the basic courtesy of giving them a fucking name for their team members. The last one, Pandian Army Club, again, that he also promoted to his entire audience, has like 1,200 NFTs and has executed maybe $200 to $300 in total transaction revenue since its birth, right? Like, it's not a very popular one, and it's probably not worth buying. These projects are small. They have absolutely zero credibility, and yet Aries North was promoting 4 of them within 3 days using the exact same parameters, which correlates to a sponsored post, while he and other leadership figures gain thousands and thousands of followers in nearly identical spikes across a similar time frame. But I'm still not done. Gaining followers, as I said earlier, can have a multitude of explanations. For Aries, it's possible that their largest member, a creator named That Nerd Chris, who is popular, I believe, off of the production of YouTube Shorts, it's possible that he was promoting them, their team, and their accounts, right? It's just one of a series of possible explanations. That Nerd Chris is very clearly a high-profile figure in Team Aries, so we need to consider the reality that there is an explanation, despite the growth patterns looking absolutely nothing like any legitimate spike, and the fact that there are separate instances on separate dates of similar sizes spread across accounts that have no link to anything even remotely explainable or similar to each other. But setting all of it aside, let's explore that kind of possible angle. If the growth is somehow legitimate, how would we then explain one key similarity? Remember the date I spoke about earlier, December 15th? Yeah, on December 15th, every single one of these leadership figures experienced a nearly identical proportional follower decline. Aries Wolf lost 526 followers. Aries Geo lost 103. Aries Takeoff lost 255. Aries Skite lost 75. And Aries North lost 375. These are, for all 5 of them, the single highest day of losses by far and without exception. Furthermore, they do not share a single thing in common for those days. Multiple of them simply didn't tweet anything on the 15th, another retweeted a Fortnite clip, that's it, and another just reposted about a new member who had joined and nothing more. But going even deeper, if we select random other Aries member profiles, like the users Sorrowful and Riosify, just as examples, we can see that they don't have the identical follower loss pattern on December 15th. In fact, they display what can be categorized as regular growth and decline, or at least it seems regular, which outlines that this is not a systemic phenomenon in Team Aries. It is relegated purely to upper management and leadership. There is no possible explanation for a perfect synchronization of follower losses in those values on December 15th, save one: a bot purge. Twitter routinely purges fake accounts, and it is very clear that on December 15th, one of these purges occurred. Now, the way this ties in is because Twitter follow bot websites, a simple service where you pay $30 or $40 and get 500 or 1,000 followers, often source these accounts from similar methods. One particular website will use, a tactic for the production of fake accounts, and that tactic is similar across the board for all that they offer. That means that when Twitter introduces new detection protocols or banning parameters, bots and fake followers will be suspended or removed in, shall we say, batches. Accounts that bought fake metrics from the same website will often see shared results of this purge, because they share many of the actual follower profiles as well, not just the number. And when you look at the entire situation in context, Team Aries, 2 self-professed owners, the founder, the social media manager, and another management figure as well, appear to have been simultaneously hit by a bot purge on December 15th, after most likely purchasing thousands of followers over the preceding weeks in highly irregular spikes. Now, I understand that I risk the ire of the Fortnite kiddies. I understand that the brain rot fanaticism of their grinders and fans will probably result in a channel brigade of middle school insults and spammed dislikes. Plus the fact that I'm directly mentioning a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers that is very closely associated with pretty much all this. But when looking at these metrics, when diving into the similarities, the promotion of irresponsible and likely fraudulent NFT collections, and the overall practice of illegitimate growth to access and exploit an underage demographic who just wants to make a viable living out of video games, well, I have a special place in my heart for groups like that, so I decided to give them a Christmas present. Happy late Christmas, Aries. That's it. It's an industry built by and usually preying on children without the knowledge of their parents, all just through the fanaticism of wanting to be good at Fortnite and be the best at esports, so I really don't actually have any sympathy for it. Maybe there's an explanation for all of it, but I highly doubt that there is. I would be willing to state quite a bit that there isn't. If you want support, though, you can check the links down below, primarily locals and Patreon. I'm trying to make those the primary income streams for the channel and just completely avoid the pipeline of advertising, especially in early months of the new year, but we'll see how it goes. Also, another gaming YouTuber to check out, merchandise, social media, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.